Okay, it's 6 o'clock. I want to call the City of Twinsburg Public Works Committee to order. Roll call would be Greg Bellins here, David Post is here, I'm here, Sam Scafidi. That's the committee. Also in attendance is Scott Barr, Daisy Waller, Karen Laddie, Mayor, Law Director, Engineer. Yeah.
Actually, when we were at the last meeting,
Okay, thanks. First order of business is to appoint or elect a chairman and a vice chairman. So I'll open the floor to nominations for chairman.
I nominate Sam Scafidi for chairman.
I'll second.
I decline. I'll take it. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, vice chairman, nomination.
Nominate David Post.
I accept that.
I'll second.
Accept that. Glad.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Aye.
So you got those, Shannon? We're good. Audience participation? Nada. Okay. Third item, East Glenwood Bridge. Amy.
Good evening, Council. I know there's been some discussion about the bridge to some degree that's at the at East Idlewood between the parking lot and to the playground over there. And we did have it reviewed a couple years ago, but inspected, and there's some things that are above what Service Department can repair, and some concerns on the structure itself, because that structure becomes underwater when high flows come and deterioration due to salt. So what we're looking at is to apply for a Nature Works grant at 50/50 participation to replace that bridge structure. And it is a continental bridge structure that was placed
Amy,
20
is your mic
plus.
working?
Yeah, it's the same as yours. I mean, I hear it. So, can't get any closer unless I... Hello. Sounds a little much. Sorry about that.
Was that on camera?
Shannon during minutes, we like. So what we're looking at is applying for the grant for 50/50. Those grants are relatively small because they're divvied up between all of the county, and it's about 150 to the county. So that will, we're looking at about 100,000 of that being partitioned to us if we get it. So just wanted to make you aware of that we're putting that, and there's legislation to go ahead and put that application together and submit that grant. So we are raising the bridge up so that hopefully during the flood flows, it won't cause, snag. It's never really snagged anything anyway, but it will be above that floodway flow that goes underneath
So it's
it.
a complete replacement.
It's a complete replacement. And then we'll ramp so it's all ADA compliant when we're done.
What's the
Either
decking
with
gonna be?
grading.
Is it going to be the same decking, or we got to upgrade that?
We actually are looking at similar decking, but again, a lot of that is because it goes underwater. It has salt, so it's really how you maintain it. If you use more of the environmental, because should be anyway over the
So that's a
years ago.
positive to wear the way it did.
Yeah, years ago they probably just threw rock salt on it, and it slowly has caused the corrosion that exists. Even at City Hall here, we sometimes use that salt that's kind of blue, environmentally friendly, so it doesn't cause deterioration to some of the concrete pavement. So that would be a more friendly type of application in that situation.
Okay.
Any other questions on
Do you know
that
what your timeline is for that, Amy?
The grant is due, I think, in about 6 weeks.
Okay.
And then it would be on the capital budget as a program for next year.
Okay.
If we're definitely funded, and it would, we might ask for it regardless in need, and then it's a decision, do we reapply for another grant or do we do it all ourselves?
Okay. So it would be next year at the soonest.
At the earliest, yeah, the grant has to go in, has to be scored and evaluated, and that whole process.
Okay.
so.
Are we worried at all? Is there any concern that bridge is?
It's not structurally completely whatever. There are some things that people have called in, and but usually when I say, well, I can close the bridge, they're like, oh, it's not that bad. So I mean, it's not as beautiful as it once was,
Right.
and aesthetically, and I know Service does check it just to make sure that we don't have any major.
Okay. I'm just worried about
Major
safety.
concerns.
That's
So I
all.
was going to ask if we could have Service look at it, because we've had some deteriorating boards on there, planks on there, and there's been some movable planks that when you step on it, they move. And I've had a few complaints in the past. So, yeah, I think
Yeah,
put it back
they'll
up to-
probably check, they usually check a lot of those things out in the spring, but I'll
And I
specifically
missed
send
who
them an
you're
email.
applying for this money through.
Nature Works, or, no,
Works.
yeah, I believe it's the
Okay.
Nature Works portion, if I'm correct, let me read here, I actually got it. Yep, 50, and we're going 50/50 reimbursement.
Got it.
In the county, they have 150 for Summit County, so we're asking for about 97.5. They can still do another project, it kind of divvies out. We could ask for a little bit more, but I think it basically gives us more points on our application if we're not overly greedy.
Okay. Okay, no
Speaking of
questions?
bridges, there's been communication regarding the Glenwood Bridge too, and right now, it's not on
I saw that, yeah.
radar, yeah, so we'll.
That's a few years away, too.
Yeah, I probably put together a response to try to encourage, to keep it at least on the radar, because right now, it seems like it's pushed. Until it starts really falling in the creek, it's not gonna really be looked at.
The Glenwood-
Scary is they
yeah.
said that, you know, it's not due right now, but they're gonna watch it closely because it's not, he basically said it's not in the best of shape either, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, could fall in, but, you know, it's not due, so we're just gonna hang on and hope, you know, cross our fingers and look at it. We're gonna
That's
wait
not the
until it
same
falls in.
railroad
Yeah,
thing.
until
Is it the same?
It's not the same thing,
But it's the, yeah.
Yeah.
We're kind of waiting.
But they're still
Yeah,
gonna
we
fix the
initiated that
tracks.
because
right?
ODOT came up with a round of funding. And
They're still gonna fix
have
the tracks though,
their
right?
eye on it, so we'll
Yeah.
just keep pushing
Yeah.
the mayor, like you said.
Different,
submit a
different.
letter to the county engineer, asking them to reevaluate and see if, you know, it does need to be moved up in their schedule so that they can apply for some funding, not this year, but maybe next year, what have you.
Okay. Next, the 82 Chamberlin signal adjustments.
Yes, we had said in the spring, we'd take a look at the traffic signal at 82 in Chamberlin, hoping that traffic patterns may have stabilized to some degree. We did make a slight adjustment, which will allow the green time to stay longer, as long as there's calls for it, up to 14 seconds from where it's currently at. And currently it was at 21 or 30 seconds, so we've added some seconds if the traffic warrants it. We cannot tweak that signal any further because it's part of a coordinated loop. So if this doesn't solve the concerns that we have and we want to look at it in any more detail, we'll have to look at the 4 signals on 82 that are part of that coordinated loop as I discussed. But this was pretty much had a traffic engineer go out and look at it during, you know, the time of days that we thought we had the worst things and kind of make some adjustments to the timing. So that's kind of where we're at with that. So I wanted to update you on that. So if you
So the
still
green, it was increased on 82 or at both?
for
both
the
ways?
Chamberlain.
Both ways?
So that the complaint was coming off of Chamberlain. There was not enough green time.
Okay.
So,
Okay, any questions on that?
like I said, if you hear anything from your residents that it's still not functioning, like I said, it's going to have to require a higher step up as far as what we would look at or do.
Okay, the AMAT's traffic safety report.
Okay, AMATS came out with their current traffic safety report for 2018-2020. The only intersection that shows up on that report is the Haddon 82 intersection. Now, the report did change some of the methodology behind how they calculated the worst intersections, because now they're looking at injury, possible injury, fatality, serious accident type of things for how they look at those. Haddon has come up, Haddon and 82 has come up in the past with the previous methodology. So we started looking at that, and I provided for you after Friday some stuff we were able to pull up of ODOT's website. It seems like traffic kind of spiked in 2018 as far as accidents. It seems like a lot of the accidents are occurring at rush hour evening accidents or wet pavement. We have that hill there. People are traveling too fast. So I will ask police to look at maybe enforcing during those hours a little bit more, but I'm also going to approach ODOT. Has a small traffic safety grant they put out 4 times a year, which we might be able to do some things. I know when I drive through there in the morning, the sun glare is real bad. You can do backers on the signals to try and, grab more attention. There might be something we have to do coming across from Haddon to Wilcox, because there seems to be a number of collisions in that direction when you kind of look at the results. But I gave you kind of the crash diagram and what the results for that period was. So are there, like I said, I'm pursuing some money for the fixes if they're going to be more expensive.
I have a question. Did you know where Haddon, if you keep straight instead of making a left or right hand turn, you go down where Cracker Barrel is?
Yeah, that's Wilcox.
Wilcox,
Yes, okay, well, is there, I noticed that there's a pause when people want to make like a left-hand turn, even a right-hand turn. And I'm wondering, is it pretty safe? Why is there a pause?
It
And they
is,
just sit there with
Well-
yeah, I don't understand.
and that's one of the things I kind of want to look at the intersection with the traffic safety
Right.
study. It is a very large intersection. Because you're developing lanes for Haddon, and you're developing lanes for the freeway, and you're coming off the freeway. So there's a fair amount of pavement that's in that area, and you've got, like you said, you've got the elevation differences on all legs of that. Makes the geometry a little more interesting. I think the biggest thing that I can tell, based on a number of these accidents, was speed coming down the hill when the pavement's in a wet condition. And then, like I said, there was some movements that were going Haddon to Wilcox, and I'm not quite sure why those were all occurring. I think people, make that jump too soon, or don't know what the other person's doing. So we'll be looking at those.
Anything else under that? Amy, next.
Okay, the other thing that occurred at the last AMATS meeting had to do with functional classification of roadways. And I kind of gave you a map. And with functional classification of roadways, that is how we acquire federal money to help fund some of the resurfacing that we have done. It has to be a major collector or above to be able to get the 80% funding. So they are looking at reclassifications. I'm not sure other than this section of Chamberlin Road that's between Highland and 82, that isn't functionally classified. If there's anything, but you can look at it, you can ask me some questions if you have any concerns about how they are functionally classified. Functional classification, you've got your local roadways, 25 miles an hour, then you have your collectors, which take a lot of the stuff from your residents to your major arterials, minor arterials, which would be like State Route 91, and then your freeway system. And they all, like I said, if they're a major arterial, which tends to have a lot more traffic coming into it, that is where it basically warrants some of the funding. But it has to be functionally classified on this map to be able to receive federal funds.
Any discussion there?
I do have some unfinished new business that you didn't get, because I just got it on Monday.
Okay.
Public Works provided me some information on sanitary sewers on Glenwood Road. It's more or less on laterals. The sanitary main is fine, but there are a number of laterals that they I've noticed are seriously plugged.
What part line?
East Idawood towards Ravenna, the old section,
Liar.
1956 section. The only caveat there, and we're looking at putting together a plan to replace the lateral. That is our portion, but the only portion of that lateral is 20 feet. From what I reviewed later this afternoon, it's 20 feet and a clean out. We don't have a clean out right now because in 1956 we weren't putting the clean outs that we currently do to separate the two. My concern or issue that will occur as we do this, I'll go the 20 feet, put the clean out, and there'll still be lines that are plugged, with roots, and because of 1956 era on those individual residents, and then we'll have to let them know that, they've got some concerns or issues associated with their line. The good part is only being 20 feet. I can get a 20-foot section of pipe, so I won't have joints in my section anymore where that, it used to be pitch pipe clay that every, few feet you had a joint, which creates some more of that protrusion. So the change in products that are available from 1956 to now provide less opportunity for things to get into joints. So there's about 21 of them, and like I said, we're good looking at it, and it will come up in a finance committee later in the year once we pull that together. If we can get the bid out yet this fall, we're probably looking at appropriating it and doing it as a fall project if we can pull it all together that fast.
We're just talking the laterals, right? The sewer
Just,
itself is
just the
fine.
sewer lateral, the sewer department, other than one manhole that needs a little work, just because they have a little, which is typical, it's just sewer laterals. The main is perfectly clean and good shape, but there's just the intrusion and stuff like that. But it will affect, like I said, when I cut into it, I can't see it just being in my 20 feet, so
Are
it's
these
gonna
folks
be.
currently having problems, or we just identified that when they went in there?
I know they were just doing
Cleaned it
their
out.
cleaning in January and had reviewed it, and they kind of looked it over, and they're concerned that, they may have had one or two that, I think I've even on a Google map saw, I don't know if it was a water line or a sewer that somebody had dug on their property at some point to make that adjustment. I don't know if they're getting calls or not. That would be a public works for Chris's department to ask, but they are concerned with the amount that's in there, so they want to make sure that our side is free and clear.
Okay,
And that's all I had tonight.
that's it. Wow. All right, anything else for Amy while she's here?
I have a question, Amy. I had sent you an email about the how fast you're going on Liberty. I noticed there's one on Post.
Oh, the signs?
Yeah.
The police department do the speed signs. They do a lot of those, and they move them out around through the city. So I'm not sure if you know if the
Yeah, I think we own-
lieutenant's in charge or.
I think we
if
have
they
4
do-
of them.
Okay.
Basically, the police department just rotates those around the city. They're battery operated and,
Post sign hasn't worked this
yeah,
week.
they do, they do warn people about their.
No, I know that. I had
They also-
requested one on Liberty, and then I saw one
Okay.
on Post.
We can just send one to the chief, and I mean, he's the one that basically, between him probably and a lieutenant, and
Well, I talked to him. He said it's something with the township owing some of that property
which,
up
on
there.
which road, I'm sorry.
Liberty. Like, if you're on Cannon and you turn, this was a concern from a
I think
resident.
we own the street.
We own most of the street. We own, if you're down by Cannon Road,
Okay.
where Liberty ties into Cannon, we own both sides of the street. We own the park, we annex
Right.
that in, and we own up to, closer to where the nature center is, south of the nature center. There are township properties in there.
For half,
And then
half
on the
the
north
street,
side of
right?
the nature
That's for like
center.
half the road, right?
Yeah, on the,
Yeah.
what would be the
On,
park side.
right.
As
So,
well.
um,
So it depends where you want the sign.
Evans Way,
Right.
half the street, in front of probably Liberty Ledges. Of course, that would be Reminderville, right?
Well, you have
half the
what was
street.
Blue Jay Farms, that would have been
Blue Jay
township.
Farms is half the street.
Yeah, and
So you have
there's
those connection points.
further toward Abrams, there's a speed limit sign. The resident's concern was there was no speed limit sign as you turn off of Liberty until you get to Abrams, and that's where a lot of the speedings, especially because of
You
the,
turn where?
from Cannon onto Liberty.
So you turn from Cannon to Liberty, and they're,
There's no speed limit sign, and that's, it's because the park's there, and it's probably a lot of out-of-town people.
you mean an actual speed limit sign, not
Yes.
the monitoring one?
No, an actual,
Oh,
so I asked for maybe a speed limit sign and a monitoring one as it's new, so people kind of get the gist, you can't go 50 on
And the
that road.
Yeah, the monitoring ones, they rotate to the city, and I'm sure they've got, a whole list that they're working through. But I'll let the sign shop know about the
Yeah,
actual
okay.
posting of the speed limit, and they'll go out and look and see what's going on. It may have been taken out during the winter at some point, or maybe, but I'll have them review that. And I know if you put that in, I probably forward that over to the police department, so you're probably on the list for the rotation throughout the summer.
Yeah.
They probably are waiting until the park gets more busy. Because, you really want to attract when all the people the kids are there and everything else, but that would be that's just a guess on my part.
Right, okay, thank you.
Wanda, Mr. Ennis.
Yeah, I just want to ask, as projects are moving forward, I know that David Kleiman has sent emails, and we've had some discussion about bike paths and, connecting, the bike paths through our city to Solon and to all these other cities. I'm just, is there consideration for all these things? I mean, I know that when I had a conversation with him, he expressed concern that, and I know you've gotten emails, we've all gotten emails, but I just want to ask, do we consider bike paths and the striping and the making the lanes for bikes?
Yes, we have. If you look at, although it's not a true bike lane on 91, we put in a wider shoulder for bikes.
Okay.
In the process, a lot of the design criteria for bikes and bike lanes and true bike lanes changed from 4 feet to 5 feet to, all these separation. And because federal money's involved, you have to make sure you're at the highest level to really do it, but we put share the road, and we do have the bike lane there. Years ago, I actually met with all the surrounding communities, Solon, et cetera, and that's how they extended the path down to us. We built the section in front, down to the park from the north. It was more of a sidewalk as opposed to a share the road. A lot of those, so if we're looking at resurfacing, say, Liberty Road, it's not as simple as, oh, we're going to go resurface, let's go put a bike path on there too. Now you're talking about your rehab, you're talking about a widening, you're talking about NEPA, which is the National Environmental Protection Agency, because now you're into the ditches and all. So if those things are the way of going as opposed to the maintenance, that was the question that I think when I paved that road out years ago now, it's been a long time, but I was able to get the funds to do that widening, we put bike lanes. We do have the plan, the master plan that was done with AMAT, some grant money, and I know there are some programs on there. The question is, the dollars to fund it and implementation and pulling that trigger. We don't have a dedicated fund source. We're still fighting for general fund money with everybody else, so, it comes down, and we do some things like looking at the pedestrian bridge over East Idlewood, looking at maybe some work over at the amphitheater bridges and paths in there. But I don't really have anything right now as far as a large path, but I have built some in the past. We just don't have anything in the budget right now because we've been, fighting to get the little things done with what budget we have.
No, I mean, that makes sense. Obviously, what about the trails? Is that, maybe I should be asking you about that question. I should.
The
maybe I was
trail?
thinking
Which
trail.
Do you mean the railroad tracks ones? Because that's what David had said.
Yeah.
I spoke to Larry about that, and he said, we have working railroad tracks.
Yeah.
We don't have any non-working railroad tracks like Solon
I think
did.
they was looking at just trails in general, which
Right.
we have miles of in the city, and I think council's always been a proponent of trails, but also back to the bike lane. I mean, when you're talking about like if you're doing something on Liberty, you'd have to do on both sides of the road, and then you're also talking about extra right of way, and then now we're compensating every single property owner, however long you want to extend that, by widening our right of way. So it's a little more into it than just.
No, yeah, that's what I'm inquiring.
Yeah.
But
So right
is
now, I
Liberty the only
don't
road that would be, I mean, do we not, I mean, I'm just thinking, like all these other projects that we do, I'm just inquiring.
Well, we have talked about, we started the extension down from Solon, connecting into their path, which was more of a multi-purpose path. We went with the wider solid sidewalk to be a multi-purpose kind of path, not an on-bike road. And you get different users depending on what, so it's not like you're covering all bikes by just putting in a bike lane. So you need more experienced user on Liberty Road. And a lot of the experienced users don't even necessarily want to ride in that lane if it's not well maintained. You can go down in Hudson right now and see all the debris. So most of those riders, even though the path is there, are riding actually on the road.
I would ride in Solent because, especially on Liberty, because it's full of gravel. So I would stay in the road anyway because, a road bike, you're going to lose it.
So we focus more on the path that can be family oriented when we have constructed our path. We constructed on McTiernan Parkway on the side. We did the Hickory Trail, which is not a paved surface, was more of an asphalt grinding surface, could be upgraded at some point in the future. So a lot of the trails that we have put in are more off the road, not on the road. But like again, I said, we did 91 and we made sure we had wider shoulders for, if you're not even getting all the way to the edge, at least you have a little more comfort as a bike rider riding that road.
We did look into widening 91 from Post down to the bridge because of the ledges and the way that's laid out. It's prohibitively expensive, like million and a half, I think the number was.
Yeah, it was a pretty expensive part.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Anybody have anything else for Amy?
Amy, did we ever look at connecting, at one point we did, have we ever recently looked at the Glen Willow trail that's now completed and connecting to that, or, because we would require a bridge for that, is that correct?
There would be bridging. We looked at it years ago. I know we put a moratorium over there on some of the easements we had.
Like Heritage.
Yeah, to put the connection in. The creek is really, really close to what would be property lines in the back there to sneak something in there. And my concern personally would be in the floodway, and if you actually were on the one Glenwood, when they washed out, I think their first year because of the being a little close in terms of that. But yes, you actually would have to cross over, it's how you would cross over and cross back. And that bridge would be very similar to what we did here on McCarran. The bridge over here is over Tinker Creek on McCarran Parkway. The creek, if you ever really look at the creek, it's only yay big, but the bridge is yay big because of the floodway. So you have to look at, you're on Tinker Creek. You think, oh, I can see David, that's about as far as I have to go. But not, in reality, you've got to clear the floodway, so that bridge would be a lot longer. But yeah, there would have to be a bridge, or there'd have to be, at one point, we looked at stabilizing the side of the bank and building it in there and have the whole, we've looked at a number of different things. We just, again, kind of, when we put the moratorium and we had a lot of concerns about doing anything in those backyards, we kind of backed away. We can look at trails again if you.
But at the time, we were looking to apply for money too, that would have taken care of some of that erosion.
We were looking for
with
some
those
money.
residents along there where their fences are just hanging in midair because it's eroded away.
I think the way that Glenwillow's got it designed now, and I think we talked a little bit about back then, connecting it just directly into the park, whereas it was different exit options that were between residents' homes that we didn't like. And I think it would be 2 crossings in Tinker's Creek to be able to do that from where it is now, which again, I think would be a great project. I think, it's a beautiful trail. Sam and I were on it not that long ago. But
Yeah, it
again, it's money and design and everything. So.
Yeah, I think we had 2 bridges because when we sat in those meetings, didn't we have to put in 2 bridges
I think
at
it
the
was
time?
2.
I mean, so I know it's costly.
Yeah, no, but it's a pretty area back there. I agree with you.
It's beautiful.
Being able to get through
That
there.
would be a great project, as we all said, between 2 counties,
And
2
you-
cities, 2
I-
park systems. I mean, that's going to get some money from these park systems, I'm sure.
David said that, Kleiman said that Solon, they applied, they got almost all the money from grant money. I don't know who applies for that through the city here to get grants, but he said that it was almost all paid for. I mean, he's a biker, so he pays attention. He says it was almost all grant money in Solon.
Well,
What
when you did the roadway
The
section,
addition to the road or the paths in the metro parks?
I think he was talking about the paths. There was a ton of, I can't be sure, but he was
He's
just
talking
saying
about
that.
the railroad paths.
I'm not sure what he was saying, but he was saying there's a ton of grant money that is.
paths.
Are you sure it's the railroad path?
I'm pretty sure it's, he,
Okay.
because he had sent me an
We
email.
could next year look at, so this year I submitted to the state for their capital biennial budget, a potential project up at Chamberlin Park. So looking at the bathrooms, looking at ADA access for the amphitheater as well as new playground equipment. So we I put together a narrative to ask for money for that particular project. So next year we could easily do that for the trail to look at, see if we can get any money else.
there's Clean Ohio funds and recreational trail funds. A lot of those require you to have all that land secure and in your possession before you can even make that, or the commitment that it's secure, because they don't want the application and then you can't control that land or have that land. So there's a lot of things associated with it, but there are a few grants that they do have a lot of red flag issue, things hurdles you have to get to even get to the process to see if you can then apply and see if you can get on the grant system. Those would be the ones I would think would possibly get you some money there, but again, there's a lot of clearance you have to do and possession of the land you have to have before you can actually do the application.
I appreciate that. And last thing, next time there's a run, I'd like an invite.
It was a walk.
He said run.
Actually, it was a gator ride.
I took him on a cart.
He said it was a run.
I rode him on a
He
cart.
said a run. It's in the minutes, I'm sure.
We were running on a cart. We were going fast.
I'll go for riding a cart.
I'll take you on a cart. Yeah. Thank you, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody have anything else? No absent members. Our next meeting will be June 14th of the Public Works. And nobody has anything? We'll adjourn. Hey, I do want to...